I'm sure like many of you, it's been a great opportunity for me to sit in and see so many talented presenters. I think it's fair to say that obviously yesterday was very impactful for me. There was so much great synergies in the room, and as a result, I'm glad to be in here this morning. So I should probably ask at this stage of the week, how's it going?
Great.
I need more energy than that.
Great.
Well, Chicago 2026, how is it going? That is what I like to hear. So, I'm going to forge ahead real quickly. Just get to the next slide. I like to test the presentation. So, I want to tell a story at the top. This presentation is usually about 45 minutes long. So I'm going to tell a story at the top. I'm going to push some content because I want you to get the basics, and then we'll end with something I think will be exciting. So that's kind of where I'm at, just to kind of let you know where the pacing is going. I've got myself just over 2 minutes right now. Let me know if I'm incorrect. So, ultimately, many of you, I'm sure, when you saw the schedule, were probably looking and seeing, well, there's a guy. It's a women's conference. Why is he here? It's a great question. I was wondering that too. Absolutely. So. Ultimately, I'll tell you a little bit more. I was at a women's conference. I do keynotes periodically and come in. I love to do it. And I did that a lot in my previous walk of life. And I did a keynote last year in Miami last September with another organization. I won't mention them. But ultimately, it was a women's conference. And I really enjoyed the synergies there. I was invited in. At the time, I was working on my book. I was nearly done. But what I found is when I got in that room, there was so much great excitement and feedback. I literally went back and rewrote a significant portion of the book after that because it got me thinking about what have I not said that I wanted to do, and that's the reason for the delay in it coming out right now. Shortly after I finished in Miami, and it was a great event, ultimately they approached me. Dr. E had me on her podcast and invited me to come in, as well as the folks at WEL, and they invited me in, and I thought, why wouldn't I do it again? Because I think it's a great opportunity for me to come in. Look, we talked a lot yesterday about diversity. Having a man at a women's conference seems pretty diverse, so ultimately I think it's a good idea. So, that's a little about why I'm here, and I'm excited about the opportunity to talk with you this morning. So, with that in mind, I'm going to forge ahead. The Bruce Blueprint is about the democratization of leadership. I went to so many conferences when I was in the executive world, studying what is great leadership, from ATD conferences to SHRM to Duke Fuqua, Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, which at the time was ranked, I think, as number 2 or 3 leadership school in the world. John Maxwell, which I'm certified through, which is probably the most prolific American author. He's got an event in Orlando in August they've invited me to go to. I'm a friend of John's. I've been invited to private events from his. And I would see all these great presentations, and at the end of them, I'd sit there and say, well, it sounds like just be perfect in everything you do, and you'll be a good leader. Life doesn't work that way. There's no such thing as perfect leaders. You're going to succeed and you're going to fail. It's about failing forward when you don't succeed, as well as changing things and constantly learning throughout your life, so that way you can constantly get better. At least that's what I believe. And ultimately, that really brought me to write this book. And another thing is, I was really frustrated with what I was seeing on my TV on a daily basis. We live in divided times. And regardless who you root for politically, it is difficult to find good leaders, in my estimation, who are leading by the examples. And I thought we need to get back to basics, particularly in the American culture today, in order to really lead the way we need to. So that had a lot to do with the way I write the book, with the reason I wrote the book. In addition to that, I think this particular conference is perfectly situated to be in Chicago because it has such a rich history in leaders and in diversity. I'll mention just a few of you. On the right side of the wing, Republicans, Abraham Lincoln from Illinois, obviously, abolished slavery. On the other side of the fence, Barack Obama from obviously Chicago area, famously. Jesse Jackson, famous civil rights leader from right here in Chicago, and arguably the most famous person in my adult lifetime, Oprah Winfrey from Chicago. These are great leaders and motivators, and also people who really demonstrate the focus on diversity. So I can't imagine a better place to have this event. I used to cover Chicago 20 years ago when I was a regional director in entertainment. So I'm familiar with the city, and I'm always glad to come back here. It's a wonderful place to be, and I think it's the perfect place to host a conference such as this. Previously in my life, I worked most notably as an executive with Cineworld Regal, which has overseen learning and development internationally for 16 years. I've worked with other companies as well as education for a number of years when I was younger, as well as with Universal Technical Institute a few years ago to help them with their hybrid learning post-COVID and help get that out there. And a couple of years ago, I decided if I really believed what I said, all the things I've been telling people for years, I needed to put my money where my mouth is and start coaching. And that's what brought me here. So ultimately, it's my pleasure to meet all of you today. In 2009, Regal Entertainment Group, which at the time was the largest theater company in the world, promoted Amy Miles to be the CEO of that organization. Only the second person to ever be CEO for Regal. Amy was one at the time of 29 females of Fortune 500 companies to be CEO. So obviously what that means is you've got 471 companies which are not female CEOs. If you're wondering, in 2025, there were 55 CEOs who were female among the Fortune 500, so 11%, so 89% were not female. So just on that math alone, we know we have work to do when it comes to diversity for females, women having an opportunity to run organizations. And that's why you have events like this, I believe. And I've always believed passionately in diversity and in leadership. I think it's the most critical question you can ask is, who are you leading and how are you helping other people succeed? I do not believe it is possible to be a successful leader if you do not embrace diversity, because that means you're ignoring a large part of your team, by definition. So, to me, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Some of the stuff that's happened recently, I thought we'd already decided this a long time ago. We'll have this debate. I know where I stand, and I'm certainly not going to switch. But ultimately, we need to get unity back in this country where we want to go. It's the United States of America. We need to be united, not divided. Absolutely. So that's part of what brings me here today. When Amy got promoted, we decided to focus on becoming a great place to work, which you talked a little bit at the kickoff. I was fortunate enough to be designated as one of two throughout the company of about 28,000 employees to lead that initiative, to become a great place to work. At the time, our percentages internally, if you don't know, great place to work meant at the time, 70% of your employees, in a random survey of 25% of your employees, have to say you're a great place to work. And we had been polling at about 34, 35%. We made it a focus for two and a half years to become a great place to work with a litany of initiatives that we instituted, and we became Great Place to Work certified, and they helped make that happen. After that, we got very confident we could make other great things happen. So we decided to focus on diversity. We had a diversity committee. And I'll tell you a story that I think is funny about the diversity committee's first meeting. Actually, the first meeting was taking ideas about how can we focus on diversity, what initiatives can we institute. It was helpful. After that, we decided to host an ice cream social on the corporate campus, Regal, located in Knoxville, Tennessee, if you don't know. And we decided to host an ice cream social, so I was working in partnership with our VP of HR. I told her, well, let's get some ice cream, order it through food service, they'll bring it in, and everybody will come in corporate. We'll write an article in the company newsletter, and everybody will know diversity is a top priority for us. So I left the details to them because we were hosting a Regal Entertainment University. I was the dean of Regal Entertainment University while I was there. I oversaw everything that happened in there. I felt like we're going to be ready to go with this. So they came in for the opening kickoff to the diversity committee. And they brought in the ice cream, and we brought in, 500 employees on the corporate campus. Most people came. And we only had one type of ice cream, and it was vanilla ice cream. So ultimately, I pointed out after the event to the VP of HR, you know, if we're going to celebrate diversity, maybe it's a good idea to have more than one flavor of ice cream. Or particularly that flavor of ice cream being vanilla might not be the best idea. So the good news is, within a couple of years, we won. We were selected by Fortune magazine, one of the top 100 companies for diversity internally. So we were able to achieve our objectives. And that particular accomplishment is done by a vote of your employees. It's not something they can just rubber stamp and give to you because you paid them some money. So we got there organically. But my point is, even though it didn't start great, we eventually got there. When we focused on diversity and let everybody know they were part of our team. Because I vehemently believe it takes teamwork to make the dream work. Do you agree?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So, with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and forge ahead. My background primarily in education as well as learning and development and operations. I did make the difficult decision to leave Regal after about a year and a half after our merger with Cineworld, which is based out of London. They made the decision to no longer make employee engagement a priority, to no longer make diversity a priority, and to freeze wages on 73% of our general managers, as well as a variety of other initiatives they made. And I decided I could no longer represent an organization I talked about, so effusively over the years, if it wasn't going to embrace those initiatives. And they went within a year, and it wasn't just because of me, it was because of what they were doing. Within a year, they went from over 70% Great Place to Work certified to 17% internally support for the company being a great place to work. So I've seen the other side of this. So when I talk about the politics, which I'm not going to talk about, I've seen in the real world, when you don't care about your people or you don't explain that, and you don't focus on diversity and the things that appeal to them, you're going to lose their hearts and minds. And that's where companies fail. And ultimately that organization, which I was proud to represent, and I signed an NDA, so I can't get into too much detail here, but ultimately I will tell you they went through the largest bankruptcy in entertainment history a few years ago. Because they lost touch with their basics. And that is, do you care about your people? I don't think there's a more important question you can ask of yourself. in order to be successful. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so that's my kickoff, my story at the top. I wanted to go ahead and tell that. So I'm going to go ahead and forge ahead with the presentation. Again, I'm going to do what I like to call push this content because I think it makes sense. It tells you a little about the book. I don't want to get into too much detail with that. I've got the books here. I've got superior prime shipping available to you. I'll give you the book for 20 bucks, real simple out there. I will hand it to you. That's faster than Amazon will be able to get it here. I guarantee it. If not, that's fine too. Look me up. It's also, apparently it's on sale. I looked last night. It's for $9.99 digitally. Go ahead and grab that. I'm already being clearanced. It's like a few weeks out, but I'll go ahead and deal with it. So I'm gonna have a drink of water real quick because you're right. It does get a dry mouth up here, but I came with water. I like to be prepared for these sorts of things. I encourage all of you that speak later today, do the same. So, to talk about principled leadership, and think of that as the four legs to a chair, which can ultimately lead you to transformational leadership, which ultimately allows you to make substantial change within any organization that you're at. The good news about this is it's not only applicable to where you currently work, it's available to where you could work down the road, and it's also, if you flip the script, available in your personal life. Parenting, relationships, these sorts of concepts, as John Maxwell explained to me many years ago, are the same in terms of our personal lives as they are professionally. Focusing on vision and ethics, that's your base. What is your vision? Is it clear to your people? And is it ethical? I would argue our current disconnect in our country, which all of us have to wake up every morning and see what's going on, has a lot to do with integrity. Are we doing the right thing? It's no longer about voting left or right. It's about right and wrong. And it's time to do what's right. Resilience. We talked a lot about that yesterday, right? That I thought was terrific. Focusing on the perspective principle, which is how you see things, and failing forward. We're all going to fail. It's what we learn from that enables us to be successful. Brand. What is your brand? That's leadership styles. It's also about the positive principle. And then finally, the people principle, which is also emotional intelligence. The good news is, for the women in the room, the research tells us you're significantly better at emotional intelligence than the men. You have a huge advantage. And again, this is focused on democratization of leadership. How can everybody be able to know how do we become good leaders? So this is just basically a footprint you can use to be successful. 5 is communication. That's the professionalism principle, and listening. And if you do those initial steps, which is brand, resilience, understanding, capturing your people's hearts and minds, and communication, those are the legs to your chair. That enables you to become a principled leader. So then, E to the third power, thus the name, the Bruce Blueprint, is execution. Do you have the ability to get things done? Engagement. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then finally, empowerment. That's where power multiplies and you have the ability to be successful in your leadership. So, this is the Bruce Blueprint graphically. If you're trying to figure out what that is, it's also in the book as well. That's the way I see things. Branding, resilience, understanding communication allows you to be principled. If you're good at execution, engagement, empowerment, then you become transformational within your organization. John Wooden, in my estimation, one of the greatest leaders ever. If you're not a fan, you don't know him, he coached UCLA basketball. He won 10 college basketball titles, the most ever, 7 consecutive. If you go to John Maxwell and ask him who's the greatest leader you've ever researched, he'll tell you it is that gentleman, John Wooden. Success is peace of mind, which is the direct result of self-satisfaction and knowing you made the effort to become the best of which you are capable. Self-actualization is what that's all about. So, to talk about the Bruce Blueprint, principled leadership, vision and ethics is the foundation of principled leadership. It's the legs to your chair. Branding, leadership styles, and the positive principle. This is all outlined in the book. Certainly, branding, authenticity. Is it organic? Are you real? Do you truly connect with your people? And the positive principle, which I always believe is important. Staying positive will always help you sell whatever you're trying to sell, wherever you go. Leadership styles, these are some that come up in the book. Servant, transactional, and commanding, which are very popular right now. I don't believe those work in the longer term. Participative, authentic, again, organic. Are you really connecting? Laissez-faire, not touching things. I wouldn't suggest that unless you have a really talented team that you're comfortable with, that you know what they're doing. Pace setting, that's a lot like benchmarking and looking at numbers constantly and trying to improve. And then finally, bureaucratic, typically governmentally oriented for people who just have a system that's always worked for them. Also, leadership styles which sometimes come up, situational. We talked about adjustable leadership a little bit yesterday, very similar. I would recommend you have your situational wherever you go in your leadership style to make sure you're adjusting it where necessary. Transformational, which is ultimately what I'm arguing in the book, is critically important to drive true change. Then finally, leadership and brand. Leadership styles shape personal branding by influencing how leaders are seen and defined. So resilience is the perspective principle. That's failing forward, learning from our mistakes. Understanding is the people principle, capturing their hearts and minds, focusing on emotional intelligence. Communication, the professionalism principle, and listening. You got to keep in mind communication is a two-way street. The ability to listen is arguably more important than even your ability to speak. Are you hearing your people and reacting to that? Which leads us to transformational leadership. Execution, which requires strategic planning and requires the patience principle. Sometimes people make mistakes, act too early, they don't know enough. I would advocate the perspective that some of the stuff we're doing currently, we didn't completely think through before we did it, and as a result, it's a mess. You have to have strategic planning ahead of time and be able to react. And you don't want to react too soon. That's the patience principle until you're completely ready to move. That's the key to execution. It doesn't mean do something, just do it, but do it right, as Nike would say. Engagement. Teamwork makes the dream work. And then finally, empowerment. That's where the power multiplication occurs and leadership success. If you are yourself a good leader and you have the ability to impact 10 other leaders, then you have 11 good leaders. But if those 10 other leaders affect 10 more with each of them, then you have 10 times that. That is what leadership is all about. Can you create leadership throughout the entire organization? That typically requires you empowering them to be able to make decisions as well as engaging them ahead of time. Are they on your team and do they clearly understand what the vision is? That's critically important. So, the importance of transformational leadership is what the Bruce Blueprint advocates. It creates a vision for where the team is going, or a compass. Trust, where people truly believe in your integrity and authenticity. Innovation, they encourage creativity and change the status quo to drive growth and improvement. And finally, empowerment. They drive and uplift individuals, helping them grow into confident, capable leaders themselves. Certainly Apple, I would argue, throughout its evolution, I don't endorse all of Steve Jobs' techniques, but I will say he was transformational. Starbucks has also been transformational. There's other organizations out there. But whenever I identify an empirical example, that doesn't mean they're always right. Every organization makes mistakes. It's how you react to that, which ultimately dictates how eventually successful you'll be. So, it's all about transformational leadership, as I tried to explain. That's the Bruce Blueprint there. And that's me. You can contact me on my website, Bruce Wren. That's my phone number. That's also my WhatsApp, if you want to go ahead and contact me there. I tested the QR code last night. It did work. I will tell you sometimes it doesn't for some reason, so if it doesn't, I apologize, but there's other ways to get a hold of me. I strongly encourage you to look me up on LinkedIn. So, I come from the entertainment business. And in the entertainment business, the most exciting thing we can do is be able to celebrate together a great performance. I also believe that leadership is not a me thing, it's a we thing. When you come to a conference like this, you're kind of creating, for lack of a better phrase, a brand new you. You have a chance to listen to everybody, synthesize what that means, and react to that and become better at what you're doing. So what I would like to do to conclude my presentation today is celebrate the brand new us, as all of us are getting better at what we're doing. So as I mentioned earlier, in entertainment, we love a great performance, and most importantly, we love a standing ovation in entertainment. So I'd like to encourage all of you who are able to stand at this point and deliver a standing ovation for the brand new you. Let's hear it. Congratulations on my clock. That's 20 minutes exactly. Let me know if I can talk to you later on. Again, I do encourage you to hook up with me on LinkedIn or whatever else. It'd be